Okay, last night I made a video about the Cubs going into the October 21st game, which was game 4, and it all tied into the curse of the Billy Goat, and I said that the Cubs uh, might go undefeated to sweep, but I also said they could also go in with one loss, so it would make it 9-1 because the Cubs' record against the Mets this year is 7-0. So the Cubs lost today or tonight. So if they win the next two games, they'll go into the October 21st game 9-1, and Chicago Cubs adds up to 91. But one of the things about this game, I should have looked it up yesterday, um, but and I knew it before, but this was actually the Chicago Cubs' 168th game of the year, and it was also the New York Mets' 168th game of the year. Interesting because the word or words New York Mets actually adds up to 168 as well. Also, it was game 1 of this series. Game 1 adds up to 33. And in this game, the Mets pitcher was Matt Harvey, who is number 33. A few things in this game, though, threw me for a loop. The score ended up being 4-2. Well, 4-2, the date numerology, 10, 17, and 15 adds up to 42. But I really thought the game was going to end at 4-1. For one, I talked about all the 41s yesterday. I talked about not all of them, but a lot of them. Skull and Bones, 41. Talked about the coding in the Nebraska game, whatever. The word 41 even adds up to 46, like the Cubs and all that. But the game was played at Citi Field, and City adds up to 41. Also, in this, if you go back to the curse of the Billy Goat that was in 1945 in Game 4 in the 4th inning, if you look at the series here, the only time the Cubs lost their first game 4-1 on October 4th, and then the game on 10-6 where the curse was, Game 4, Detroit won 4-1. So anyway, Detroit never scored once in the first game, so literally 9 innings, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 innings later, they finally scored. 4 points in the 5th, like a 54 reference even. But then they ended up winning 4-1. And look at the players in this game here. So Hank Greenberg, he had a 3-run homer, the star of the game, born on 1 of 11, 1-1-1, even born in New York. The 11th state, New York, even adds up to 111. It's the 111th World Series this year. His name in gematria is even 115 and 70. 70 interesting because 1945, the year of the curse of the Billy Goat, was 70 years ago. Also, 115, we talked about Back to the Future. Well, 11-5 is the day that Marty goes back in time to 1955. Even says this guy was the first Jewish superstar in America team sports. He attracted national attention in 1934 when he refused to play on Yom Kippur. Interesting, because Pope Francis came to the United States this year on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was on the 9/22 going into 9/23, so 9/22, 9/23. And remember, Pope Francis arrived at 4:04 when he got to America. Then he went to the White House at 9:23 on 9/23. And sorry, I'm going to skip over for a second. Game 4 here, like I said, it was the Detroit won 4-1, and the curse of the Billy Goat happened in the 4th inning of Game 4. But look, Detroit also scored 4 runs that inning. But let's go back up to this Game 2 here, then. The first one they lost 4-1. It also talks about the pitcher for the Cubs, and his name's Hank as well, Hank Weiss. And he died on the same day, October 22nd, as the guy who cursed the Cubs. He died on October 22nd, 1970. So this guy died 30 years later to the day. And look at his name in gematria. 34, a number I've talked about tons of times dealing with Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War, also Moses, but long story short here, it's also 106. The Curse of the Billy Goat was on 10-6. The Cubs have not won the World Series in 106 years. Or actually seasons, 106 seasons, because this year would be 107 years if they lose. And this was the guy who was pitching in Game 2, and he even started his career on September 27th, 1941. September 27th is literally the last day that Pope Francis was in the United States in Philadelphia. Also tonight, before I move on to Game 4 again here, tonight in the Cubs game, the star was Daniel Murphy. Find that interesting. My mom's maiden name is Murphy, so like if she wasn't married, my name would be Daniel Murphy. It's kind of funny. But look when this guy was born. 4-1. And look at Game 4 here. October 6th then. And I said Detroit scored 4 runs in the 4th inning of Game 4 that the curse of the Billy Goat began because he got thrown out in the 4th inning. But look, Chicago's only run was in the 6th inning. 6-0-1-106. Just like 10-6 the day the game was on. And it says this guy, Dizzy Trout, had a 5-hitter. I mean, pretty crazy. But, well, he died on it was actually the 60th day of the year because I believe 72 was a leap year. And I've been seeing 60 a whole lot. But his name in gematria, his real name, Paul Trout. Let's do Paul Trout. It's 36, interesting. And also 144. If you sum the digits of 1 through 36, it adds up to 666. Even Mark of the Beast adds up to 144. And the first 144 digits after the decimal of pi adds up to 666. So, interesting name gematria. The other guy was Ray Prim. Let's see here, Ray Prim. He was the Cubs pitcher. And literally his name in gematria, Ray Prim, adds up to 46. And he even quit playing baseball in 1946. Remember, Chicago Cubs equals 46. Chicago adds up to 46. I don't know if I can find it here. Chicago Cubs 46, Chicago 46, just the word 46. And also 41 equals 46. In this game, the score was 4-1. Okay, so basically, the Mets won because they add up to 168, and literally it was their 168th game of the year. It was also the Cubs' 168th game of the year. Game 1 adds up to 33, and number 33 was the starting pitcher. Most likely that's why they won, but it also made the Cubs versus the Mets record this year 7-1, kind of like 71. I've talked about 71, 17, 14, and 41 a whole bunch and tons of previous videos over and over and over. If you go back and just watch my last video, I talk about a ton of 71 references. But that's interesting because a lot of stuff happened with the number 17 today. I'm probably going to run out of time, but in this Royals game, once again, the Royals were down, and they were down by 3 runs going into the 7th inning. And then all of a sudden they made a huge comeback and they scored 5 runs in the 7th. But the reason they did that was because literally number 17 was throwing the game. Interesting too, it all started on this guy's first pitch of the 7th inning. So literally 71 again, or 17. But just watch this play here. The second baseman in this clip, the second baseman is number 17. He calls it, and then he just says, oh, never mind, I'm not going to catch it. I mean, so ridiculous. I'm gonna replay it. I'm sorry I had to record it with my laptop here, so it's kind of shaky and crappy. Why didn't he go catch that? Anyway, that whole play ended up starting a chain reaction, as Doc Brown would say, that ruined this whole game for him. The Blue Jays ended up losing. Then again, in the 7th inning, number 17 makes another bad play, and he runs in front of the shortstop so he can't get the double play. And then everybody is, even the pitcher's like, what in the world is he doing? Here's a better look. Why would he run all the way over there? You don't even have to know anything about baseball to know that was stupid. Another quick thing I wanted to point out, I just forgot to do it the other day, was Kansas City Royals and Toronto Blue Jays actually add up to the exact same thing in gematria. They both add up to 212 and 59. Interesting, I've been talking about the Abraham Lincoln references. This is Abraham Lincoln's birthday, 212, the 43rd day of the year. Also 59 is the kill number in Jewish gematria, so not sure what that all means, but just kind of interesting. They both add up to the same thing. Also pretty interesting that the number 17 for the Blue Jays, the guy who I said was throwing the game, is literally born on the first day of Lupercalia in 1988. All significant stuff. We've talked about the 88 and time travel and whatnot. And then the first day of Lupercalia. His name in gematria even adds up to 122. We talked about 52, like 5-2 is the 122nd day. The 239th prime, or 52nd prime is 239. It's the 239th year of the United States. Tons of other stuff with it. Even, like I said, Abraham Lincoln's birthday is 12-2 or also 212, depending on how you write it. And that's 122 as well. And the Lupercalia reference sticks out to me. I haven't even watched this whole Michigan game here. But in this Michigan game, totally blown game, rigged. Has to be. But look at the time here. It was the final play here where they lost. They snapped the ball with 17 seconds left on the play clock. And this guy was the guy who snapped the ball. His name in gematria is 227. 227 Gregorian to Julian is also the same as Valentine's Day, which is the second day of Lupercalia. It's also the 49th prime number. It's also a reference to pi because 22 divided by 7 is literally 3.14. But the kicker of Michigan is Blake O'Neill. And Blake O'Neill, also interesting gematria, 98 and 44. 44th day of the year is the first day of Lupercalia. 98, all of these numbers were surrounded by the Super Bowl last year, or at least around the time of the Super Bowl. I noticed a lot of this. Michigan Wolverines. As I said, they were sacrificing the wolf, and that's why Michigan was so bad. 98, just like the punter today. Punt actually adds up to 17 and 71, by the way. Tom Brady adds up to 35, which is significant, and also 98. Jim Harbaugh adds up to 98. Lupercalia adds up to 98. Also adds up to 44, just like the kicker today. Also, I guess Jim Harbaugh in Pythagorean gematria adds up to 53, the mirror of 35. And that's interesting because today in this game, I didn't get to watch it all, but number 35 for Michigan got ejected. And they had this article with this kid wearing the Patriots hat who is mad at the refs and he's flipping off the refs or whatever. I mean, I can't even believe this isn't even an article. But they want you to see this Patriots hat. Also, if you scroll down farther here, they show his friend in the background, or these kids in the background here. This kid has the Chicago Bears glove on or whatever. So they're showing you Chicago as well. And look what the score was, 7-17. Anyway, I'm going to watch that game right now, but number 17, Iowa, also had a huge blowout today, and Iowa just reminded me of the Iowa Cubs. the AAA team of Chicago.